well, let's see how we go from there. Welcome to the Conservation Commission's public hearing. I would like to ask Bill to do a roll call for the quorum purpose.
Okay, we have DeMello
Here.
and we have myself. We have Kachulik
Here.
and Lee.
Present.
And that is a quorum, and we'll have to be watching out for Mr. Sampu and Mr. Abadili, who hopefully will show up.
Yes. And then you have staff, Kim.
Oh, and we have Kim Kavanaugh, who is here.
Present.
Yeah.
And we're still waiting for Ed to sign in.
Wow. Yeah.
Okay. So we have the quorum for this hearing. Acting under the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and or Chapter 237 of the Code of Town of Barnstable, the Barnstable Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, March 31st, 2026 at 6:30 p.m. for the applications of John F. Fitzgerald, trustees, Bluff Point 1999 Trust Number 2, Henry Blair, trustee, Henry E. Blair, and Raymond M. Murphy Trust. Gary Sobel. This hearing is being recorded and broadcast on the Town of Barnstable's Government Access Channel. The plans and application are on file and may be reviewed by scheduling appointments by sending email requests to @hoops at 230 South Street, Hyannis. In accordance with the Mass General Law, Chapter 38, Section 20, please let the chair know if anyone is recording this hearing. Hearing none. Tonight's hearing agenda is posted on the town's website. On the agenda, next to each application is the amount owed to the Town of Barnstable for the cost of advertisement. Please send your check to the Conservation Division at 230 South Street before the hearing. Remote participations. The Conservation Commission's public hearing will be held by remote participation as a result of an act extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency signed up by the governor on March 28, 2025, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law. Remote public access to this hearing shall be provided in the following manner. 1. The hearing will be televised via Xfinity Channel 8 or High Definition Channel 1072. It may also be accessed via Town of Barnstable's Government's Access Channel. 2. The real-time public comment can be addressed to the Conservation Commission utilizing the Zoom link 816-5357-1718 or use the toll-free phone number 888-475-4499 as shown on the agenda. Third, the public can also email the comments to edwin.hoops@barnstable.gov at least 8 hours prior to the hearing. I just want to notice Ed is here with us. John is here with us. Is Pete with us too?
Yeah, I don't see him.
No. Okay.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, I had computer trouble, but it's all set now. Thank you.
Thank you. So we have the five commission tonight.
Yep, Pete just came in. I'm seeing him. Pete just popped on my Zoom.
Okay. Yes, Pete. Tonight, we don't have any RDAs, but we have 3 NOIs. The first one is John F. Fitzgerald, trustee, Bluff Point 1999, Trust Number 2, demolitions of an existing homes and constructions of a new single-family home, new septic system with denitrification tank, retaining walls, screen the porch, deck, patio, rinse stations, invasive planting removal in native restoration plantings, and associated site work at 124 Bluff Point Drive, contoured as shown at Assessors Map 3034, parcel 070. Timothy?
Yes, good evening. For the record, Tim Santos from Merrill Engineers representing the applicant, also with me this evening is John Haven from LeBlanc Jones and Ian Peach from Wilkinson. That will be part of my presentation. With your permission, I will share my screen.
Yes, please.
I assume everybody can see that?
Yes.
Okay, so the property is located at 124 Bluff Point Drive at the end of the cul-de-sac with frontage along Katuitt Bay. Resource areas on or within 100 feet of the property are Coastal Bank, Coastal Dune, Salt Marsh, Coastal Beach, the bay itself, and a portion of the property is also located in land subject to coastal storm flowage. The existing property is currently developed with an existing single-family home, various decks, hardscape walkways, a set of wooden steps that leads down to the pier, lawn and landscaped areas. It's currently served by town water as well as a pre-1995 septic system that runs along the southern property line. So I'm going to switch over to the proposed plan. What the applicant is wishing to do is to tear down the existing home, construct a new home and deck, which will be serviced by a new Title V compliant septic system with denitrification components as far away from the top of the bank as possible. All the roof runoff will be collected and diverted to a dry well. The applicant is pulling the house back from the top of the bank where it sits now. When we did our redevelopment calcs, there was a reduction within the 0 to 50-foot buffer of 370 square feet, but there is an increase within the 50 to 100-foot buffer of 719 square feet. So in order to meet your performance standards, we're required to plant 2,157 square feet of mitigation plantings. We're actually proposing to plant over 2,800 square feet. There is 1,150 square feet that runs along the top of the bank into the north of the house and existing lawn areas. To the west of the house. And then to the north of the house, there's lawn and existing developed areas that currently is a deck with a spa and some walkways that we're proposing to remove and plant. That's 1,650 square feet, totaling that 2,800 square feet of mitigation plantings. We are also proposing some invasive bank species management removal that along the bank here in the plus hatched area where the invasives will be removed and restored with native shrubs and trees. That's over 3,900 square feet plantings that we're showing. We believe this project is an improvement over what currently exists, and this board can approve this project. Just before I turn it over, the project has gone before zoning and received approval from zoning, and we will be before the Board of Health for their review and hopefully approval as well at the end of April. So at this point in time, I will stop sharing and turn it over to John so he can talk about his mitigation plan, and then he'll turn it over to Ian.
Tim, do you have the mitigation plan up handy in your set?
I can pull it up. Hold on one second.
Okay. Thank you.
Can you see that? Oh, I gotta reshare. I'm sorry. Hold on.
Yeah, you have to reshare.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Great. Thank you. I'm primarily going to be speaking, as Tim mentioned, the area here to the west and along the top of the coastal bank here. This is an area that we're proposing between the top of coastal bank and the 50-foot buffer. As Tim mentioned, about 1,150 square feet of mitigation, which includes some lawn removal as well. The plantings include 12 trees, including serviceberry, American holly, Easter red cedar, 20 shrubs such as clethra and spicebush, and 420 grasses, including Pennsylvania sedge and crinkled hairgrass. The remainder of the area between the 50 and the 100-foot buffer, we've also included a suggested plant list, native plant list for that area as well. Two of these trees, I'll note, kind of occur at the front of the house, still within that 50-foot buffer zone, kind of in the front corner. It's kind of page bottom of this screen here. And a few in the front of the house as well, but still within that 50-foot buffer. with that, unless there's any questions, I can hand it over to Ian with Wilkinson Ecological, who will discuss the coastal bank restoration and additional mitigation areas.
Before you switch the plan, Tim,
Yep.
can you leave that plan up?
Sure.
I just got a quick question for John, right? On
Yes.
this plan, it kind of showing clearly how many trees are you cutting within the 50-foot buffer? And how many trees are you planting?
Yes, we have 12. The trees are indicated with black X's on that plan. I believe we have 12 removed, and we are proposing 12 in the new plan.
Okay, thank you.
Tom, so there's 8 within the 50-foot buffer, and I believe there's 4 within the 50 to 100, but all 12 are going back into the 50-foot buffer,
Okay.
if that helps.
Yep.
Follow-up question?
Sure, John. Pete?
Okay, so yes, you have an equal number of trees going back. If you were to base instead on diameter of the trees, what's the ratio of the diameter of the total number of trees that are being cut compared to the total diameter of the trees that are going in as they go in? Because sometimes we actually ask for, if you cut a 12-inch tree, then maybe you should be putting in 2 smaller ones. So if you could just brief me, the rest of the commission, and the public on that ratio, please.
Tim, do we have that information readily available? I don't know if we ever added the total.
I don't have that readily available right now. I would just ask that can we just let Wilkinson do their presentation, and then we can address all the questions at once?
Sure.
Because the overall project, there's 2,157 required for mitigation. We're proposing 2,800 of mitigation plus an additional 3,900 square feet of invasive removal, plus the D-Night system. So
Yep,
the overall project is definitely an improvement, but let me see if I can get that number while Ian's looking at his.
even if it's just a rough estimate.
Yeah, not a problem.
And Peter, as you recall, that's usually done at chest height. That's usually what we look at.
Right.
Yeah, yes.
Ian?
All right, thank you very much. I'll share my screen briefly. And can let me know that this is being seen. I'm going to show both the plan and this diagram, which I think is a simplified way to look at it. For the record, Ian Peach, presenting the project tonight from Wilkinson Ecological Design. Our ecological restoration design really has 2 primary aims. Create a vegetated buffer along the top of the bank, where none currently exists, and enhance existing vegetated buffers to protect the resource areas of the property. We also want to restore, you can see over here in the lighter green, we want to sort of restore with the mind and conserve that we have this really nice existing native tree canopy and understory, and protect what we're finding from invasive plants moving across into that area. That is really nice overstory and understory to make one comprehensive mitigation approach. We're finding on site in our invasive plant management areas, shrub honeysuckle, Asiatic bittersweet, multiflora rose, vine honeysuckle, rugosa rose. I pointed out that area on the western portion of the bank, which I think is important to note, that we're going to sort of amplify and lock into what's an existing area, conserve that and protect that by doing native plant community restoration and invasive plant management. I also want to note that to the further east side, we have an existing cedar grove, similar condition. Really important to get in there, manage the invasive vines and plants before that is further degraded. So really, we're kind of locking in the 2 areas with helping them from degrading further or beginning to degrade, and connecting them with a focused invasive plant management and native plant restoration approach. So in addition to that, I should note, and I think it's probably good to look here in the purple, we're conserving, or converting, I should say, existing hardscape and lawn, and that's going to a nice native diverse buffer in that area. You heard LeBlanc Jones speak to what they're doing to that buffer as well. That's all lawn conversion, so I know that is of high value. We're proposing 57 native shrubs, 12 different herbaceous native species that are well cited for this environment. I want to kind of look at it holistically and understand those two ends where we have really great native plant species like the cedar grove and an existing canopy, and really talk about how important it is to sort of both conserve those and then do that net positive work of the mitigation and the restoration. So we're really at about almost 3,000 square feet of lawn or hardscape, which is really great to see being converted to that native plant community restoration. And then we're going to just have an expanded buffer and an expanded wildlife corridor, which is what we're always looking for. If I zoomed out right now, you'd see that there's going to create a little bit connectivity further to the east, and we're working across the entire area. So that's really what I wanted to point out. I'm happy to speak more to our methods and specific species, but overall, including that invasive plant management and that lawn conversion to native plant communities, we're looking at 5,550 square feet of mitigation for the project. So happy to talk to anything further.
Thank you, Ian. Any questions from the commissioner?
I do.
John?
Oh, sorry.
Bill had his hand up.
Bill? Sorry, Bill?
Well, yeah, just it's the narrative suggests that the limit of work is about 40 feet from the coastal dune. And, that kind of was a minor flag for me, but I'm thinking all that amounts to is invasive management. Is that right? Or perhaps deck removal?
Let me bring up the
site plan.
site plan. Hold on a second. So the coastal dune is down here. If you can kind of see where my hand's moving around.
Yep.
And there's an existing shed where the limit of work's going to run right in this area right here. So there is no work being proposed in the dune, near the dune. It's all kind of, the limit of work's going to kind of run along the existing tree line.
Okay, thanks.
John?
No, Rob has got his hand up.
Oh, Rob?
Is there any way you can bring up the proposed plan?
It's up right now.
This is the proposed?
That's the proposed, yes.
All right, so behind the house,
Mm-hmm.
where the number 18 is,
Yes.
what is that?
That's just a lawn area. Currently, right now, that's a deck area.
So what's that going to be? Is it?
It's gonna be a lawn. Right now, it's a deck, and it's gonna be a lawn area.
Do we really want a lawn that close? I mean, I'm asking my fellow commissioners.
I'd like to address that. I think actually got to step back a little bit here. We're getting a denitrification system, which is an incredible advantage to our environment and to the water out there. We're getting tremendous amount of mitigation. We're getting a management company with ecological experience in Wilkinson. I mean, overall, this project is, the law says, will a project do harm to the environment? This is just the opposite. This project is definitely an environmental gain. I mean, I am so much in favor of this. I vote yes already.
Well, I'm going off of what, other meetings we've had, and having lawn that close to the water was always a no-no. I mean, does it have to be lawn? Can we do?
Oh, currently, right now, it is a deck. I mean, we're trying to take the house, move it back, and still allow some sort of area to kind of get around the house and have an area in order for the homeowners and their family to use at the same time.
Yeah.
Could I make a comment to Rob?
Yeah.
Sure.
Rob, we love to protect that 0 to 50. I'm a fighter on that front all the time. But when it is a hardscape and you're going from hardscape to lawn, that's like a major positive. And so I can't defend keeping that from being a lawn as they are moving it back. And
okay, that's why I asked.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to agree quite a bit with Commissioner Abadili, and I would like to also add, again, I'll think about that ratio of the trees. But I'd also like to add, while cat briars are not are not a exotic species, they can do tremendous damage to holly trees and cedar trees. So I would like, if it's not already explicitly laid out, and I didn't see it, that cat briar vines can also be controlled by this applicant's care of these habitats, if that's okay with my fellow commissioners.
What about Brer Rabbit?
Well said, Bill.
A couple of things, Tim, on your mitigation calculations. I think you have some credit that you did not include it in your calculations, because
Yes.
in your net alternative, in your net alteration within the 50-foot buffer, you have minus 3.6, 370.
Yeah, so
So
we didn't claim that. I've been before for another project, or I was on while another project was going on. So it was some kind of conversation. So I kind of went with a very conservative approach, and just went the 3 times the 719. We didn't go 719 minus the 370, then 3 times. So it's probably even more than what they need.
Okay, I just want to point out. So, I just want to be honest with you in terms of the calculations. Secondly, I think we need some distance from the bulkhead to your building. Right now, there's no distance label. So I need a revised plans to show me some distance on that one.
Yeah, that's not a problem. I can get that added for you.
And then I think we would probably need some demarcation on the mitigation area.
Yes.
So are you asking for it, like in the future, like as part of a condition, you mean demarcation, so that it doesn't get kind of cut into? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, I want to including that as part of the revised plan. When you're adding the dimension in there, then you're adding the demarcation line along the mitigation area.
So what would the board and the commission be looking for as far as a demarcation, just so LeBlanc can weigh in as far as if that's acceptable to them?
We have a few alternatives that we can put some stone on and something that, every so often that you have some stone or some
You do wooden posts, concrete bollards, stones, fences, single rail.
So yeah, I've seen different boards with different things, single railed, the concrete bollards with some type of rope. I've also seen the stones every 25, 50 feet, depending on what it was.
Right.
So, okay, I'll talk with John about that.
Yeah, right. So we open on that one. You can take your choice. I think that's all I have. It's nice to have a D-Night system in here. It's so close to the water. And I think this is a good project.
Mr. Chairman?
Yep.
Just to add, since we're doing a revised plan, they should also call out that is a state and town coastal bank.
Yeah, I'll add a label to that. Sorry about that, Ed. I kind of missed that note. So I should have known better.
And then the other thing is, since we're doing the revision, just to make it clear that area that's going to be where the deck was, we were talking about the deck and is now being lawn, you should probably put that in as lawn, just so it's clear when
it's clear. Yeah.
It's time for the COC. And I just wanted to know whether or not they need an ongoing condition for invasive control.
I think you probably need one, right? You want one?
I would suggest it, but
Yes, that would be preferred.
Okay. Channel 18, any public comment on this one?
Seeing none.
None? Could I have a motion to approve these projects with the condition of subject to receipt of a revised plan showing the distance from the bulkhead and the demarcation lines, the coastal bank clarifications, and I think that's about it, right? Oh, and the lawn. labeled the lawn area. And then with ongoing conditions for the invasive removal. And then an ending report for 3 years.
So move, Tom, if you're ready.
Yep.
So move.
Second.
Roll call.
Abadili.
Just a comment too, we push this denitrification. It's voluntary now. So I want to thank the applicant for doing that. I personally think that's a critical aspect of improving our environment. So thank you. I vote yes.
I agree. DeMello.
Aye.
I'm voting aye. Lee.
Aye.
Kashulik.
Aye.
And Sampu.
Aye.
And that is unanimous.
Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you for your time. Have a great week.
Yep.
Thank you.
The second NOI is Henry Blair Trustee, Henry E. Blair and Raymond M. Murphy Trust. Maintenance dredging of Millway Marina at 275, 277, and 295 Millway Road, Barnstable, as shown on the assessor's map 301, parcel 063-001, 063-6-002, and 065-001. Who would that be? That would be.
That's me, Mr.
Oh.
Chair, Charlie Agro.
Oh, Charlie.
How are you?
Good.
For the record, Charlie Agro with BSC Group. I'm a waterfront engineer presenting the project on behalf of the applicant. The project we're proposing is maintenance dredging of Millway Marina. This project has been previously permitted and previously dredged numerous times in the past. It was most recently dredged in 2020 and 2021. We're proposing dredging by both hydraulic and mechanical means. So that would be hydraulic dredge, such as the county dredge, which concurrently pumps, dredges and pumps the sand up to an upland area. So we're proposing 2 dewatering containment areas as shown in the overall site and dewatering plan. And then we're also proposing the project be completed by mechanical means such as excavator on a barge or clamshell dredge. It was previously dredged in 2020 with cutter suction dredge and then cleaned up in the summer of 2020 by a excavator on a barge. This project will have to go through Chapter 91, 401 water quality certification, and Army Corps of Engineers permitting. We did also go through Waterways Committee last week, and they approved the project with little concerns. We'll also be going before the Shellfish Advisory Committee, I believe on the 8th of April. We also received a Division of Marine Fisheries comment letter, which listed some time of year restrictions, which we plan to adhere to unless of some kind of emergency where we'd have to apply for a time of year incursion. One of the other comments also mentioned dredging within 25 feet of the mean low water line. And that is that concern is addressed by the existing overwash bulkhead. There's a bulkhead that's existing between the offshore dredge area and the beach itself. So sloughing will not occur in this instance because the bulkhead is retaining that sediment. Open up to any questions at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Any question from the commissioner, Bill?
Can we go back to full screen?
Whoop, here we go. I'm a little confused about the dewatering. The narrative suggested dewatering either on a barge or in a parking lot, and yet you have a parking lot, and it looks like you have done that before. Are you thinking that what does it mean to dewater on a barge? It sounds like you're liable to have sedimentation in the water. Is that true?
So dewatering on the barge would be if it was dredged by mechanical means, by a clamshell dredge or excavator on a barge. local companies such as Robert B. Hour or Hyannis Marina, they have excavator on a barge type dredges with a holding tank that's on the barge itself. So they'll scoop the sediment with the bucket from the excavator and put it in the holding container that's on the barge. Larger companies will have a scow, which is a separate barge, which is a bigger version of that essentially. This is a relatively small project. We're looking at 1,200 cubic yards to the design grade, and then an additional 600 cubic yards on top of that to the 1 foot over dredge. So relatively small dredging project.
But when it goes into a barge, then what happens to the
Okay, yeah, thanks.
wastewater or whatever?
So typically when you're loading into a barge, you would continue adding the sediment, which is contains some water as well. And as you're adding the sediment to the barge, eventually water will start to kind of seep out through the weep holes in the walls of the barge or over the top of the barge. And eventually the sediment will be transferred to a pre-approved upland disposal site. Like if Robert B. Hour, for instance, does the project, they have their own pre-approved disposal site with a approved BUD. And so they can drive their barge right to their facility and offload the material upland.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. Any other question from the commissioner? While you guys are thinking, I just want to read the comment from the DMF letter that Charlie was mentioning, that DMF has about 4 comments. One is a time of the year restriction should be observed on all in-water activity to protect the sensitivity, life stage of winter flounder and horseshoe crabs. No in-water silt-producing activities such as dredging should take place from February 1st to June 30th of any year. However, work may take place from February 1st to April 31st if the proposed silt curtain is installed prior to February 1st. The second one is DMF recommend the top of the slope be no closer than 25 feet from the mean low water line. Dredging the toe of the slope near the mean low water line may result in the sloping of the intertidal habitat. The dredging footprints, as proposed, does not meet this recommendations. I think Charlie addressed that point already from that discussions. The third, if approved, any activities requiring a barge should be restricted 2 hours before and after high tide to prevent barge grounding in the marine habitat. The fourth one is the fuel spill from the refilling of the construction equipment will adversely impact sensitive resource area. Impacts to resource area can be avoided by prohibiting all land-based equipment from being refilled on site. If equipment is refilling on site, adequate containment and cleaner material should be required to minimize the impacts. The other things, Charlie, we have not received the DEP number. Is that correct for you from your record?
I am not 100% sure. I can look into that.
As far as in our record, in our office record, we have not received the DEP number. So
I just checked about just 1 minute before I came on here tonight. It was still not there. So
okay, so we probably, even if we approve this project, we have to wait until the DEP number. So we need a continuance for that one.
Understood.
Ed, is there any shellfish comment on this from Natural Resource?
No, we have not gotten any letters from that, and I believe you said they are scheduled for Shellfish Committee. I'm sorry, I know you said the date, but I don't know what it's the 18th.
April
I think
8th. April 8th.
We're getting here from Waterways, I think, Tom.
Yeah, the waterway, they approved the waterway approved the projects.
Yep.
I saw that too. Yep.
So I would suggest, Tom, then as you just continue and wait for the shellfish comment, and DEP number.
Yeah. Okay. Bill, your hand's up.
Yes, it is. Are we going to be applying the DMF conditions to the permit?
I think it's the time of the year restrictions.
What about the other requirements about fuel and barges that shouldn't be
Yeah,
at
that,
low tide, et cetera?
yeah, that
I'd
would
like to make a comment on that third DMF comment, if you guys are okay with that.
yeah, go ahead.
So they say that the dredging shouldn't take place between any other times outside of 2 hours after high tide.
Before and after.
Before and after, which is a pretty tight window, and we've already got it's actually a pretty deep site right now. It's pretty close to 6 feet at mean low water, and it's just really the shallow portions of the marina that need to be dredged. So I think that the condition should read something along the lines that there needs to be 2 or 3 feet or something like that below the barge. I think when they say 2 hours either side of high tide, I don't think that they actually took into account what the actual depths are on the site. I think or what the barge itself drafts. You know, you bring in a huge barge and it'll be aground right away at high tide. If you bring in a small barge, you could probably do the work at low tide without ever hitting growth. So I think that's just kind of a little too vague in general.
Well,
I think if I can just address that, it's like the more important part of that condition is that so that the barge does not ground out. So
Yeah.
if it's more than 3, if it's 3 hours on either side, whatever it is, that's okay. It's more important that the barge does not ground out.
I just don't want to restrict construction to a 4-hour tidal window during each tide cycle. That would be pretty tough for the contractor.
All right, thanks, Mom.
the other thing I just want to mention though is because this is you dredged this area before, right? So we must have a previous order conditions, and we can also look at that, what is in that condition as well, since we are going to continue with this. And then secondly, because this is previous dredged, I just want to double check in our file, or whether you have a file on that one on the footprint. I just want to make sure the footprint matches what we have, what you're applying for.
Yeah, the footprint itself matches. The side slopes can vary over time just based on what the depths are at the time of the survey. So it's the same 4 corners of the footprint. And then if it's shallower in certain areas, the side slopes might go out a little bit further. Or if it's deeper in certain areas, the side slopes might not go out as far, which is why we always permit the footprint itself.
Right. No, I understand, but in the file, in the application, we don't have the previous maintenance dredging footprint. If I remember right, usually when we come into a dredging maintenance dredging, we always asking for that. So. Any question from the commissioner? Pete, did you say something?
You got to go to public, Tom.
Yeah. Channel 18, any public comment on this one?
Seeing none.
Charlie, when do you want to do the next hearing is April the 14th. That should be enough time, right?
I think so, yeah.
Could I have a motion to continue this applications to April the 14th?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Abadili.
Aye.
DeMello.
Aye.
Hearn, aye. Lee.
Aye.
Kachulik.
Aye.
And Sanfu.
Aye.
That is unanimous. Passed.
Okay. Thank you.
And thank you all very much. Have a good night.
Yep. The last NOI of this evening is Gary Sobel proposed the construction of an additions, renovations to an existing single-family dwelling. After the fact, repair, replacement of a wooden stairway to the beach at 546 Whitby Road, Marston's Mill, as shown on the assessor's map, 028, parcel 028. Dan,
Good evening, Chairman Lee, members of the commission. Dan Ojala, I'm a surveyor and civil engineer with Down Cape Engineering in Yarmouthport, and helping Gary Sobel out with permitting at his property here in 546 Wakeby Road out in the Mills. I'll share my screen so you can look at the project.
Yep.
It's I guess overall a fairly modest proposal. This is a huge site. It's over 2 acres. It's got almost 2 acres of upland, 1.9. It's on Long Pond. It's just to the east of that camp that's to the left of us. There's a small private pond on the east with a little bordering vegetated wetland around it. And of course, you've got the edge of the Long Pond, which is a great pond with the wetland flags there. We had them delineated by Brad Hall. We were in here for a small addition that's mostly outside of the resource areas. You can see it's outside of the 100-foot buffer, except for a couple little nicks, and there's some infill of porch that's in the 50 to 100, all landward of the existing development on the site. It's an older home. It's been there for many years. We put a 5-bedroom septic in back in 2013 or so for the owner, and this one is pretty benign. We're putting in a roof drain to handle the roof runoff. You can see note 6, all roof runoff to be directed to the gravel drip edges of dry wells. So proposed a work limit line along the east side. There is an opportunity here to make things a little bit better. The hardscape mitigation, we have some unnatural 50-foot buffer, so you would, I think, be pleased to see we're infilling the entire 50-foot buffer with native vegetation. We've chosen arrowwood, sweet pepper bush, inkberry, lowbush blueberry, a lot of nice native good food sources for the pollinators and the birds. And one of the aspects of this is we did mistakenly put in a replacement stairs without asking permission. The owner had done that. These are the old stairs that were there down to the lake. And you can see it's kind of a candidate for some erosion. It wasn't a great situation. It was unsafe. They were uneven blocks and not great. And this is what he ended up with. It's a nice stairway system that captures the runoff and infiltrates it in the gravel, and a pretty modest footprint. And we think that's a nice improvement, although obviously he should have asked permission before he installed it. So we do apologize for that. But we are asking repentance for that, and a bunch of mitigation on the east side. There you could see was bare ground, so there's an opportunity. I know usually allow a 4-foot without any mitigation. Here the steps were kind of already there, so we didn't count that. But the hardscape table is there per your chapter 20, 2000. Your section 704. The 0 to 50 is a 0, no net change. 50 to 100, a modest 348 square foot. There's a multiplier of 3 on that, so you get a little over 1,000. To completely infill the 50 and it was just under 1,000, so about a wash on that. But it's a nice multiple of improvement. We did remember to put a single rail fence along the mitigation line like you often ask for. So that's on the plan already. There's a work limit line again across the lawn to keep the work contained. So freshwater wetlands, top of a big slope, just some plantings down the gravel drive, infill the 0 to 50, and a modest addition towards the outside of the 100-foot buffer. I'd be glad to answer any questions if you have them. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Any question from the commissioner? None?
No.
Dan, the only question I have though is if you look at the mitigation, I know you fill out pretty much, 100, almost 1,000, and there is like maybe 50 square feet of difference there. Is there any way that you can put that in or not?
I would say the site is is almost completely natural, except for that little developed footprint that we've got there. So would hope to not have to revise the plan to show that. It's, you know, your regulation does have a backstop, as if you fully mitigate the 50, then you can have hardscape outside of that. So I would respectfully ask to not just infill that little bit extra, just because it would be awkward to do. So I'd just respectfully request not to, in that we meet the letter of the law, and he's a pretty good steward of the land. It's almost all natural except for the little house footprint in that big 2-acre site.
Okay, then, thank you. Any question from the commissioner? None? Channel 18, any public comment on this one?
Seeing none.
None? Dan, I need annual reports of 3 years, and is that okay?
Absolutely, yep. It's always a good idea.
Could I have a motion to approve this project as submitted with an annual report of 3 years?
So moved.
Second,
Roll call.
Sampu,
Aye.
Kashulik,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Hearn, aye. DeMello,
Aye.
Abadili. You're
John,
muted.
Sorry, aye, Bill. Sorry.
Okay, that is unanimously approved.
Thank you. Good luck.
Appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
We have 2 continuances. The first one is Bayside Property Holding, LLC, and Austerville Property Holdings, 1 LLC, replacement of 550 feet of stone wall with a timber bulkhead. Shoreline stabilizations and vegetation management at 148 and 186 Windswept Way, Austerville, as shown on the Assessors Map 052, Parcel 002 and 003. This is a continuance from March 17th without testimony. So the quorum is every commissioner tonight. Is Brittany here?
Yeah, so Bryony won't be presenting tonight. It'll be me. My name is Rebecca Cherry. I'm with Time Bond.
Okay, go ahead.
I will share my screen. Glad you guys can all hear me. Let me know if everyone can see. Should be up. Can everyone see the presentation?
Nope.
Nope.
Not yet.
Interesting. Okay, let's try
You
that
have to
again.
share the screen.
Try that one more time.
Yep.
All right, great, thanks. Hi again, my name is Rebecca Cherry. I work with Time Bond. I'm a waterfront project manager, and also joining me on this call is Mike Larner. He's a waterfront and coastal engineer with Time Bond, and Ian Peach with Wilkinson Ecological Design, who we partnered with on this project. You prepared a brief presentation, and I can share the full-scale plans at the end if you want some more in-depth plan view of what's going on here. But just generally speaking about this project, so we're looking at 2 adjacent residential properties, 148 and 186 Windswept Way on Grand Island on the eastern shore of Cotuit Bay. Looking on this slide in the orange bracketed dashed area, so we're looking at approximately 500 linear feet of deteriorated, unlicensed stone seawall, which spans the shoreline between these 2 residential properties and supports the upland area, which lies directly between these 2 residential properties in the bay. The wall has already failed in multiple locations, one at the south end and one at the north end, likely due to long-term exposure to, increased storm events and then the lack of foundational support with the wall. So this wall to the north is bounded by another private property, which has a timber pile supported bulkhead fronting it, separating it from the bay, and then at the south end by a natural shoreline. And the upland area behind the wall varies between dense vegetation, so a mixture of both the native species and invasive species, and managed landscape. And in addition to structures like this cottage here, which is almost within like 15 feet of the existing wall. Also on the site are a series of groins. I'll zoom in a little bit. There's 3 right here, which are unlicensed. They're fairly small. I'll show some photos of those later. and then a licensed timber pier, which has a licensed groin beneath it. Lastly, there's 2 very tiny timber staircases, which provide access from the upland to the beach area. Couple photos of the site. As I mentioned, at the north end of the stone seawall that we're working on here, the deteriorated seawall, this is where it meets the neighboring property's timber bulkhead. You can see the bottom corner of the wall has failed. And then this photo on the bottom right, we're standing at basically that same location and looking towards the south, towards the pile-supported pier, the 186 windswept way property, and then the groins in the background. Next photos. So this is just further to the south, moving along the seawall alignment. We're at 186 right here, and you can see the cottage just behind the seawall. These little groins, one of those timber beach access stairs, and then again, just looking in the reverse direction towards where we were previously. And then lastly, towards the southern limit of the existing wall, where we're at failure point, you can see there's been a lot of erosion and scarping behind the coastal bank. And this wall just is continuously failing and tipping over as you kind of move towards the south where it terminates into the natural shoreline. And then I'll have Ian talk really quickly about what the existing vegetation is on the site before I dive into what the proposed work is. So Ian, you want to take over here? I can just flip a slide if you need me to, but I think it's just this one.
Sure. Yeah. For the record, Ian Peach from Wilkinson Ecological Design with you tonight. And really our project goals partnering here are twofold, and we'll get to the second part of it. But number one is a stabilization of a portion of the eroding toe of the coastal bank with a fiber roll array and native vegetation. And I can speak to that a little bit more in a while. But also just as important, was looking at restoration and conservation of native plant communities within the project areas. So what's shown here on the diagram is really kind of the north and the south project areas, almost as a way to look at it. In the northern area, that orange overlay that you can see there has some of your typical invasive species: autumn olive, Asiatic bittersweet, shrub and vine honeysuckle, rugosa rose. And really an opportunity to manage those invasive plants and restore a native plant community is the orange. The red, symbolized by a red color, is even further invaded, but very similar species. So we wanted to capture that as part of the project area as well. And the yellow is a little bit less so. So kind of using yellow, orange, red, all part of invasive plant management. And really proposing 17,000 square feet of invasive plant management and native plant community restoration. What I also want to speak to is there's a white outline, and I don't know if the next slide is just right there. It might show it better, Rebecca.
I think this is just the existing condition. So we're not at the restoration plan yet.
I can speak to that. It's a little harder to see, but just inland of the red and yellow was really exciting for us to find. It's really this existing understory native meadow, really kind of neat to see. We found scrub oak on the edge. It's well-established pen sedge, crinkle hairgrass, the kind of sparse native lowbush blueberry, small salt-stunted bayberry. So a really neat herbaceous grassland with an overstory of trees that we want to conserve. So in there, it's sort of managing the invasive plants seaward of that whole area in an effort to conserve, through really minimal management, a really nice existing native meadow community. And that area is, I believe, about almost 9,000 square feet, so connecting to that southern area. So that's the existing vegetative conditions as shown.
Thanks, Ian. Appreciate it. Just a quick summary of the resource areas present on site. So we have a very small portion of salt marsh towards the south end. Basically at the south terminus of the existing wall, there's this little hatched area of salt marsh. We have coastal bank, coastal beach, land under the ocean, land containing shellfish, land subject to coastal storm flowage, and then the 50 and 100-foot buffer zones. Project need. So for obvious reasons, the existing seawall is failing. And and it's at increasing risk for partial or even complete failure, whether that be from rising water levels or, increased frequency or intensity of storms, storm surge. And with that risk comes the risk of the destabilization of the coastal bank and therefore the potential negative impacts to the adjacent resources surrounding that coastal bank. And further beyond that, with the existing structures so close to that coastal bank, the destabilization of that could compromise the structural integrity of those adjacent buildings. So the primary purpose the goal of this project was to maintain the current function of the existing seawall, but obviously extend the life with a new structure and will also preserve the visual character and the ecological function and continuity of the shoreline, as a whole. So getting into proposed activities. So the roughly 500 linear feet of the existing wall, deteriorated stone wall, is going to be proposed to be replaced with around 375 linear feet of an anchored timber bulkhead, and then around 130 feet of that nature-based solution, that fiber roll array that Ian mentioned previously. And the reason we kind of broke it into two pieces is we really wanted the northern portion of the site where there's existing infrastructure and developed upland directly abutting the bay. We wanted to put the structural support in that area, and then where the shoreline transitions into a more undeveloped natural condition, we propose the fiber roll array in the aim to, like I said, maintain that ecological function and also minimize impacts to the coastal bank and the adjacent salt marsh. So we also have oriented the transitions at either end of those elements of the timber bulkhead and of the fiber roll array to minimize potential for end effects so associated with abrupt changes in shoreline geometry. We wanted to try and minimize anything associated with those type of negative impacts. And supplementary to the major portion of work, there is going to be minor removal and restacking of those existing groins, probably just a little bit of the stones in front of the existing wall to pull out to be able to put the new wall in. And then same with the timber pier, just a minor amount of pulling off of the superstructure, the decking, to be able to put the new wall in, and then that'll just go right back. And then, and Ian will talk more about this later, but in the upland, all the invasive species management, native planting, meadow restoration, and long-term vegetation management work. All of that to say, as part of construction, staging areas will be located on the landward side of coastal resource areas, and all the disturbed areas will be stabilized and restored following construction. So getting into contractor staging and access. So a couple of key points to highlight. This project is going to be land-based, so no water-based construction. There'll be a temporary access path, which will lead from the end of an existing gravel driveway through the manicured lawn area to an upland staging and laydown area. And then no equipment access will be allowed seaward of the existing wall. No equipment or materials will be stored below mean high water. No work will occur below mean low water. And we're anticipating, very minimal sediment disturbance associated with the installation of the new wall, but the contractor will be required to put in any temporary sedimentation and control measures, and there will be a barrier around the existing salt marsh so that there are no impacts to that. This is just a quick view of the demolition plan. Again, this just highlights in the hashed area the approximate excavation footprint estimated at this time, and then any other demolition related activities, which I've already highlighted. And then getting into the proposed work plan. So this plan shows, and I can go into more detail on the full scale plans at the end of this if you'd like, but this just shows the general layout of the new timber bulkhead following the alignment of the existing stone seawall, and then the nature-based or solution fiber roll array at the south end of the site. And anticipated construction sequencing basically starts with mobilization of equipment, staging, erosion control, and setting up supportive excavation, followed by the excavation needed to remove the seawall, removing of the existing seawall, installation of the new bulkhead, so the piles, anchors, wales, and sheathing. Again, this is timber. and followed by the installation of the fiber roll array to the south, the installation or the replacement of these small 2 timber stairways, which you can see one over here and one's over here. And then the restacking of the small portions of groin that are removed, the replacement of the small portion of the timber pier superstructure, and then the backfilling and restoration and planting of the upland behind the new wall, followed by demobilization and then post-construction monitoring of the fiber roll array as needed. These 2 slides are just quick illustrations of section views of the bulkhead along the alignment. Again, I can go into these more in detail later if you'd like to see more, but just to kind of give you a general view of what we're looking at here in section view. And then followed by Ian, here's where we can talk about the vegetation management and restoration. I have this slide and then I have the following plan on the next slide. So let me know how you'd like to.
Thank you. I'll be pretty efficient here because I sort of set the table. So I appreciate commissioners bearing with us while we lay out all the details. So this just is a little bit more clearly depicted that north and south area as a comprehensive approach. Both areas will receive invasive plant management for the species I mentioned. Will receive an erosion control blanket, a native seed mix specified, erosion control blanket where needed in certain slopes. And then that blue area is the really interesting and important adjacent existing native plant community, sort of savanna-like meadow with both shrubs, overstory, and really encouraging species to see that we feel like we get extra benefit by managing the invasive species that are in their heaviest concentration directly adjacent. This area also, in terms of the invasive plant management, is directly behind the nature-based solution of the fiber roll array. So kind of working seaward, landward, we've really got a nice approach to actually be able to manage the shoreline with a fiber roll array, nourish and plant with a 3-to-1 slope so we can really get some nice salt-tolerant native species actually growing on the bank. Then it will transition going inland to the invasive plant management and native plant community area, and then to that protected meadow area that we want to conserve and just manage through thoughtful mowing and some kind of early detection, rapid response if we see any invasive plants. So that's the real approach. We've got 140 native shrubs, 13 native trees specified, and a really great diverse native herbaceous species list that's going to be planted throughout the project area. That will be planted right into that seeded mix. You've got your grasses, your flowering herbaceous, your shrubs, and your trees, and we're conserving that blue area in the meadow. So that's the invasive plant management and the planting.
Great, thank you. So as part of the notice of intent, we included a request for a waiver from the performance standards for the installation of the fiber roll array in the 0 to 50 foot buffer zone. As you can see in the table, the area associated with that installation in this buffer zone is around 560 square feet, with mitigation proposed at a 4-to-1 ratio, and the proposed plantings and meadow restoration were far outside the square footage of that 4-to-1 ratio. And with regard to impacts, all the permanent impacts associated with the project are with regard to the installation of the bulkhead and the fiber roll array, all of which fall almost entirely within the same footprint of the existing wall, if not further landward. Other permanent impacts were included, essentially associated with the installation of the invasive management, native plantings, and then the temporary impacts were associated with excavation, the temporary access route, staging area, and then the existing wall removal. And then lastly, continued coordination. So we have had no comments from Mass DEP or the Barnstable Waterways Committee. We did have comments from DMF and we responded to those already. We do have, again, as somebody else mentioned, upcoming Barnstable Shellfish Committee meeting on April 8th. And then additional approvals that we're going to be going through our MEPA review, Chapter 91, and then an Army Corps pre-construction notification authorization process. So that's about it. That's what I have for you. Happy to answer any questions or share more detailed plans, whatever you all would like to see.
Thank you. You mentioned about the DMF. I think there is a number of comment that they have in here. Let me read that into the record. And of course, you also have your response in your file as well to the DMF comments. Number one, it's the time of the year restrictions should be observed to protect the sensitive life stage of horseshoe crabs from beach construction activity on potential nesting beach. Beach construction activities such as excavation and filling could bury or crushed storing adult crabs and nests. Eggs in nest buried too deep may not hatch. No beach construction activity should take place from May 1st to July 31st of any year. Furthermore, the proposed turbidity curtain should not be present on site during this time of the year restrictions, as it would limit horseshoe crabs' access to potential nesting beaches. Second, the repair of the structures should be within the same footprint of the existing structures or landward. Any expansion of the footprint will result in loss of Commonwealth Public Trust title lands. Third, the proponent is proposing to vertical bulkheads. However, a sloped riprap design will provide a added ecological benefit as well as shoreline stabilization benefit. Slope riprap revetment can create in interstitial space that support invertebrate habitat and can reduce wave reflections towards the adjacent salt marsh. Construction activities, including staging of the construction material and equipment, as well as the equipment transitions to and from the construction site, should avoid intertidal habitats to the greatest extent practicable. As much work as possible should be conducted from the upland portion of the project site to minimize the impacts and avoid compactions of sediments in mapped shellfish habitat. Any work in the intertidal zone should be limited to low tide, such as work conducted in the dry. The proponent proposed to remove fall groins during the construction and reset the zones upon completions because the groins are no longer functioning as originally intended. We recommend that they not be reinstalled following the completion of the work. The proposed reconstruction is situated in intertidal habitat abutting salt marsh vegetation and mapped shellfish habitat. Construction should not be allowed in salt marsh habitat or in the locations which could adversely impact the salt marsh. The proposed removal of the stone wall landward of the salt marsh. Following removal, salt marsh plantings are recommended to help facilitate recolonizations and restorations of the marsh vegetation in the area. Any proposed sediment depositions over coral rock should be consistent with the material currently presented in the site in terms of the growing size and material. Fuel spill from the refilling of the construction equipment will adversely impact sensitive resource area. Impacts to the resource area can be avoided by prohibiting all land-based equipment from being refilled on site. If equipment is refilled on site, adequate containment and cleaner material should be required to minimize the impact. I know you have your letter addressing all those questions, so I'm not going to read through all that stuff. But one thing, if you don't mind, is go to the demolition plan, CD 101. Can you explain a little bit more about are you expecting to do in that demolition plan? Do you know how deep is the existing stone wall sit below grade? Couple of feet?
We don't know. We weren't able to decipher when we were in the field. We're anticipating, based on how old it appears to be, it's probably not that deep. So the demolition footprint that we're showing here is essentially the maximum that we would anticipate. It's ultimately going to be up to contractor means and methods and how they want to pull that wall out under obviously the existing stipulations that it needs to be done from land. But what we're showing is essentially with the subgrade that we have out there, the very loose sediment, if we needed to slope up for to be able to put the wall in to the elevation that it needs to be in, that's the maximum excavation footprint we could anticipate. So that's what we're showing here. And then additionally on here, what else are we showing? We're showing again the small portion removal of this existing timber stairway, a small portion of these existing groins, again, just enough to be able to get this new wall in, and then putting it back. Let's see what else. The timber ramp and railing, again, that's all associated with the stairway removal. And then that's pretty much it. But yeah, we don't unfortunately know the extent, the depth of the wall. There's not much record of it. It's unlicensed. That we couldn't find any history of a license. But based on other historic stone walls along the waterfront, like I said, we're not anticipating a robust foundation, which is probably why it's destabilized and kind of falling apart at this point.
Can you tell me the distance from the beach side towards the front end of the existing stone wall, and the distance from behind the stone wall? It looks like to be like almost 10 to 15 feet wide from the front to the back end.
Are you talking about the distance from this front of the excavation to the wall?
Yeah, and then from the wall to the back side. Because basically you probably have to slope it, excavate it, slope it, so you clear all the and stuff.
So this is kind of how we're showing it. It's easier to see in section view. So this is the proposed wall. These are the timbers kind of running in and out of the page. So we're excavating down to the bottom of the lowest timber element that we need to put in, and then benching it up as minimal as possible at a 1.5 to 1 to minimize that area to be able to put the timber members in. And then we're assuming the same bench slope backwards. But ultimately, the contractor could choose to put in a temporary supportive excavation system back here and shrink that excavation up so that it's narrower. We were showing the maximum footprint just to be conservative in the presentation of the application materials to make sure we're undermining it. But yeah, we're looking at here 4 to 5 feet probably. But that varies depending on the beach elevation. Doesn't vary too much in front of the wall, but a couple feet. So it probably varies between 5 and 10 feet between the face of the existing wall and the limit of excavation. And then again, behind the wall, it varies, but I would say I can estimate it based on, that's probably 20 feet back, 20 to 25 feet probably behind the wall.
Wow. Okay.
But again, that could shrink down depending on what the contractor wants to do.
Thank you. Any question from the commissioner, Bill?
Yeah, I'd like to just make a few comments about new bulkheads. For one thing, we as a commission have not approved a lot of new bulkheads. We may be approving old ones that need to be maintained or whatnot. I can remember one project, it wasn't too long ago, and it was a boathouse that was going to get washed away. And I think that might have been the first one that I have personally been involved with. I think that new bulkheads, new vertical bulkheads are not a good thing for habitat. And what happens is that as the water rises, you lose shallow habitat, and young of year fish need that to escape predators. And so when you end up building a vertical wall, you end up, essentially eliminating young of year habitat of really small fish. You could have silver sides, for example, that might get into the shallow water. I went into this project going, a new one, I don't know. But then I saw that stone wall, and that is a vertical stone wall. And I think that makes all the difference in the world. So where this commissioner is generally not supportive, and I don't like new vertical walls. You have one right now, and it's a stone wall. And the fact that you're doing some really good work in the southern end using ecologically sensitive approach, I'm supportive of the project. But I guess to those watching or other fellow commissioners, we should be very careful. Otherwise, we're going to end up, and I have said this at other meetings, we're going to end up like Venice, where all the shorelines are going to be on, in a canal-like situation with walls. But here we have already a wall, so I am not opposed. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Pete?
Yeah, of course, from the science background that Bill has and myself as well, I completely agree with his analysis and the benefits total benefits that are being brought before us. And so every site is unique, and I'm in support of this, but I'd also like to raise an observation that once the ocean has taken away shoreline, and we don't always let it to be gained back by filling. But again, here in this instance, the total benefits of this project, I'm okay with the filling in up to the old existing stone wall. But in other cases, loss of shoreline, I would be less inclined perhaps to allow that filling in up after, once something's been eroded away. It's happening at Sandy Neck. We are retreating at Sandy Neck from that shoreline because you cannot maintain most shorelines that are sandy, at least, with a rising sea level and a greater intensity of storms. But in this instance, I am in support of this project before us. Thank you.
Thank you, Pete. John?
I was curious about obviously I'm concerned about pulling those rocks out and what it's going to do. I think, Tom, that's where you were going with your concerns, but the tie-in, on one end, you had a tie-in with an existing wood bulkhead wall. Is that correct? And how are you going to tie those two together?
Yeah, so the neighboring property is a very similar pal-supported timber bulkhead. And so what we're proposing is with this new structure, essentially kind of coming up so that it butts up against it and kind of 45ing a little bit behind it so that we're not allowing any material to spill through that intersection and that interface of that bulkhead, but while keeping the two structures independently structurally stable. So we're tying in with that one. Again, we wanted to keep a cohesive frontage where we're not creating areas where we're going to have sediment issues and you're not going to have kind of a disturbance of flow. So that's what we're proposing on the north end. And then at the south end, we're proposing kind of that same 45-ish degree angle and tapering down of the bulkhead to tie into that fiber roll array so that it's not an abrupt change in elevation. It's not an abrupt change in geometry, and it's kind of a softening into that kind of natural shoreline where that fiber roll is
the fiber rolls are kind of bending around at the end. Is that right?
So the bulkhead bends around, and then yes, correct. We're over at this end.
Yeah.
Kind of similar to how the existing wall does, but in a softer way. And again.
And at that end, you're tying into kind of a natural area at the end of those fiber rolls. Is that correct?
Correct. And it will kind of taper into a similar grade.
Would you anticipate any negative impact on that neighboring natural area from putting in these fiber rolls the way you are?
Ian, do you want to respond to that? Yeah.
Yeah, real quickly. Yeah, so I don't. I think it's a good question. I had mentioned really briefly, we're actually, based on our understanding of the site, able to be at a 3-to-1 slope. So we're going to be able to really nourish and plant the entire array. So the array will really become plants over time. It just is sort of its starting out phase to allow the plant roots to do the good work. And that return into the bank is typical what we've done for decades with fiber roll arrays. As it returns into the grade, it lessens the opportunity for any end scour. And this array itself will help any of that kind of refraction of wave energy from hitting that coastal bank or impacting the salt marsh that's further downshore. So by both of the return, the nourishment, and the planting, I think we're really going to get a net positive in that area.
Okay, let's hope so. Thank you. The other question, and Tom and Pete and Bill maybe get some more expertise than I, but I remember going back years ago, and it was a coastal zone management, and somebody used to come in and say a sloping wall was better than a straight up wall, vertical wall. Bill or Pete, you go back with me. Do you remember those conversations? Can you help me out there, or am I making that up?
I do not.
You're not going to get the reflection of waves really bad. And if you can, even if you've got sort of a rock rock revetment in there. The cracks in the rocks break up as well. But you don't got huge ocean waves in here, John.
Yeah.
So, I don't expect the kind of bouncing off of waves that would be a real problem on the open Nantucket Sound.
So again, Pete, I'm going a little beyond this. If it wasn't in a more open area, the general preference would be for a sloping wall. Is that a correct statement?
I think you're right there. Yeah. And
okay, all right.
that would
And I would
allow,
agree with you here. It makes a lot of sense what's being
yes,
proposed.
that would allow absorption of some of that energy instead of just reflecting it back off.
Okay, yeah, I do remember that we had some expertise from some group, I think, in Falmouth that came and talked about sloping walls versus straight walls, et cetera, et cetera. Okay,
You're talking about energy. Are you talking about energy, John? Energy dissipation?
energy dissipation and the impact on the roll of the water off that wall and the energy result as it went back into the water.
Yeah.
That was it, right, Pete? Help me out here. I think that was about it.
I think that may be the Woods Hole group down in Falmouth.
Yeah, I think it was, Tom. Again, that's going back a number of years, Bill, probably before you.
It is. A vertical wall, though, from a habitat standpoint, is just terrible. I mean, it's just terrible.
But this is more, I think, from a coastal, where you have to have an armoring, which, as you said, is a problem. But where you were going to armor in certain environments, like a slope wall was superior to a vertical wall.
For energy dissipation, I guess. Yeah, I can see it.
Enough of that. Thank you.
Any other question from the commissioner? Ed, do you have any comment or questions?
Yeah, so we kind of alluded to it before, but a detailed construction protocol completed by the contractor when they finally decide exactly how they're approaching the whole thing should be sent in 4 weeks prior to a site visit, an on-site meeting. Yeah, I guess I would still go back on the idea. It's like I sort of support DMF. What they're saying is like, why are you putting the stones back in at those groins when they don't appear to do anything? So that would be my only other comment on that one.
Do you want me to address that? Do you want me to address that now? That
Sure.
question?
Yeah.
Mike, do you want to hop in on that question?
Sure. Essentially, one of the reasons we looked at putting the stones back for those groins is that the uncertainty in removing the entire groin and sort of destabilizing that area of beach just seaward of the bulkhead leaves the door open for some potential adverse impacts of the beach lowering, of unconsolidating some of the sediments that are there for it to wash away easier. And if we just remove the end, or I guess the landward side of that trunk, and don't put those stones back, then you do kind of effectively create a channel between the stones that are left in place in the face of that bulkhead, which could then create a scour channel or something similar to that, where there might be a isolated area of increased scour there. So essentially putting the stone back into place is to just try to maintain sort of the established dynamic equilibrium that's currently there.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you for both explanations. One thing I just want to mention, though, is a couple of things. Number one, just like Ed said, we probably need that. We will need a construction protocol to be prepared by the contractor once you award the contract. And I'm looking for trying to narrow or minimize the area of the demolitions plan that's showing, trying to minimize the area of disturbance in that area. But allowing you to do that project and trying to make it better use of that environment there rather than excavate the whole area at the backside. I think, Ty and Bond I'm calling it Ty and Bond is the consultant on this project. So if there is any change in consultant, we need written notifications to the staff for review and approval. And Ian, do you need an ongoing invasive management on your
Thank
work?
you, Tom. Yes, please.
Okay. The other thing do we need to continue this and waiting for the Shellfish Committee?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't need it.
No?
I agree with Bill. I don't think we need it.
Yeah, this should be continued. Shellfish is meeting on the 8th. They're in on the 8th as well.
It's not, huh, Bill? We really need that, Ed, do you think, for this?
I think that's the safest way to do it. If they, if you approve the project right now, depending upon their comment, and they make comments that somebody doesn't, either you or the applicant doesn't approve of, then we're kind of in a
bind.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I assume, Mr. You have no problem with continuing this pending that hearing?
Rebecca?
Oh, sorry. If that's what's needed. No.
Okay.
I think we should continue in this, just waiting for the comment and stuff. But we went through all that stuff, and those would be in the record, so it's easier next time. When it comes up. Before I do that, is Channel 18 any public comment on this one?
Seeing none.
None. So we're going to continue this to April the 14th. Is that good enough for you, Rebecca?
Yes.
That's our next hearing. Could I have a motion to continue this to April the 14th?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Abadili.
Aye.
DeMello.
Aye.
Hearn, aye. Kishulik.
Aye.
Aye.
Lee. And Sampu.
Aye.
And Ed is unanimous.
Thank you.
Thanks very much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you, Ian. The next continuance is Robert J. the Fourth and Thomas P. Ramis. Removal of brick paver patio, installation of a permeable pavers patios and fire pits within 50-foot buffer at 536 Shoe Flying Hill Road, Sanderville, as shown on the Assessors Map 193 parcel 029. And this is a continuance from February the 17th, March the 17th, and on the March 17th, there is no testimony, and the quorum is every commissioner for tonight. Who is that? Oh, Michael?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Michael Malinowski with Allen and Major Associates.
Yep.
I believe on the line, we also have Thomas Rems, the property owner as well.
Right.
And Rob Remis is on as well.
Yep. Gotcha. All right.
Yep.
So I'm going to share my screen. All right. Can everybody see my screen?
Coming up. Yes.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Michael Malinowski with Allen and Major Associates. We are here representing the Remis family for their property at 536 Shoot Flying Hill Road. We are here as a mitigation issue for some previously installed brick pavers patio with fire pit and a retaining wall. This is our third meeting. We've had some discussions back and forth with the commission and staff relative to the type of mitigation that was being proposed, as well as the quantity of mitigation. This is the plan that was prepared. I'm going to actually jump to this plan, which may actually give a better sort of understanding of where the areas of impacts, what is being proposed for mitigation, and what was new disturbance. So the green area shown is the proposed permeable paver patio that was installed around the existing home. You can see that shaded in green. We do have some new construction, which was for a landscape retaining wall in this location and a set of stairs. The previously installed landscaping in this zone, because there is river rock at the base of it, would be classified as hardscape. So we have included that as part of our disturbance mitigation. So you can see that we had 443 square feet of patio area. New disturbance, which is the wall, the stone mulch beds, and the stairs, is 166 square feet. There was an existing patio that was removed that is allocated at 112 square feet. So we have a new disturbed area of 497 with a 4-to-1 ratio where 1,988 square feet of mitigation that is required. Based on our discussions with staff, the previously installed vegetation, both around the patio and along the top of existing wall, because those plantings were not are not classified as native according to the Cape Cod area, we could not use those for mitigation purposes. So we have excluded those areas. The areas in blue that you see here, that is what is being proposed for mitigation. In this area, we are proposing to install high bush blueberries in this area, as well as sort of the removal of some invasive species. There's some briars and poison ivy that are in that area that pop up during sort of warmer climates. And in this area, which was previously lawn, will be converted to mitigation area with plantings of native variety and a low ground cover mix in this area. We also do have 7 additional shrubs, and based on our discussions with staff, that simply the drip line is what is allowed for the mitigation. So with those 6 plants, we have 49.8 square feet of mitigation. So based on those areas, we have 2,327 square feet of proposed mitigation area, which exceeds our 4-to-1 ratio. There was some discussion before relative to the readability of the plan. So we prepared this color figure, which better represents our assumptions for what was previously installed, what's being classified as disturbance, and what areas are designated as mitigation area. I will sort of jump back to this. So as previously discussed in this mitigation area, we are proposing to install the wooden posts with the conservation tags along this area to sort of demarcate where that mitigation area is to be. And in this area here, we do have erosion control barriers that are being installed. This area here will provide a buffer towards the water as it sits within the 50-foot resource area. The area above is previously disturbed for the driveway, which will provide additional buffers to the water area. There was also some general concern about the existing right-of-way through here. Previously, we had some plantings that were proposed up in this area. All of that has been removed. So all of the plantings and the disturbance are within the confines of private property. The dedicated easement area, which is shown here, is to be maintained as or unmaintained and non-disturbed. So be happy to answer any questions that the commission may have.
In our file, there is a one email from the abutter concerning about the arborvitae and stuff like that, but I think you removed the arborvitae, right?
There was some arborvitaes that were showing up in this area here.
Okay.
And all of that has been removed. The only arborvitaes are the existing ones that were previously planted on the back side of the patio area.
Okay. Thank you. Questions, Bill?
Yes. I've been to the site twice, and this project, this patio and the pathway, the permeable paver pathway would I can't imagine it being approved if it weren't already built. It is so close, especially that path is so close to Lake Wequaquet. It's amazing. I mean, the house is 6 feet away. The side of that house is like 6-7 feet away from the water's edge. It does show existing water level, but I mean, it depends on what the lake is. I mean, essentially the thing drops down right there, right at the house. So you put in a substantial development right in close to the shoreline. The last time I suggested that the patio, I understand it has, it has some value. It's a small house, it's a lovely patio. It's really well done. I think that's a fire pit that's in the middle of it. And, there's some value to that. And having all the mitigation for that would go into that, I can buy into that. But that pathway that comes along the way in the diagram we're looking at right now, the plan, it says 4 foot 6 inches wide. I took a tape measure and tried to find the 4 feet 6 inches, and I couldn't find it. It's 4 feet 10 inches wide, and it's a very, very very nice. I don't know. I don't know what the adjective is. Very slick, very, very well laid in stone pathway. And I, from a functional standpoint, I just don't understand why you need to have that in such close proximity. And I think that it should be removed. I think this commissioner believes that pathway should be removed and replaced with some very modest stone steps.
Stepping stones.
That's stepping stones. That's where I'm at. And the vegetation that the mitigation that you're doing would certainly compensate, if you will, or mitigate for this new very attractive patio that you've built on the side of the house. But the pathway is it's so wide and it is so close. I just can't buy into that. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Pete?
Yeah, in our previous discussions about this project, not just Bill, and not just me, but I think most of us had a real problem with that laid walkway. And I thought we were fairly clear that was something that, one, we would never allow if it wasn't already built and came before us. So right now, the applicant here is trying to keep that. And yes, there's a fair amount of mitigation, but I'd actually like to have a discussion on the blueberry mitigation along the lower, as I'm looking at the map, right side. Is there anything besides blueberry bushes in there? And are those the number of low blueberry bushes that are getting in there?
That is correct. There's 40 bushes being proposed in that area.
Yeah, that's in my mind and in my experience of 20 plus years, that is pretty minimal mitigation planting within such a large area. They're going to stay small. There's a lot of space in between them. So this commission doesn't really buy that space with 40 small bushes in it as adequate mitigation of habitat improvement, et cetera. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Beak. Let me go to
Tom Jeffrey.
Oh, Jeff. Go ahead,
Yes.
Jeff.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with Bill and Pete on both matters. And furthermore, the hydrangeas they're looking to keep, unless they're oak leaf, there shouldn't be any hydrangeas in this location right here. So
we did remove the majority of the hydrangeas, and the hydrangeas that were there were not included in the mitigation. We can remove all of them, though. That's not an issue.
Yeah, no, that's certain. But I agree with Bill as well. The walkway should be removed and replaced with a stepping stone type walkway.
Yeah, we were just afraid with a stepping stone or a fieldstone walkway that it's uneven. We wanted something that was going to be more stable, that it was going to be a tripping hazard. You know, I have 4 young children. My brother has 2 as well.
If it's
parents and grandparents that come there. We wanted something that, you know, wasn't going to be an issue of them walking around.
If it's installed properly, there'll be no issue.
Yeah, I also, and the other concern with that is those stepping stones, if you have them, the stones themselves are in essence impervious. The paver walkway that is actually installed there will provide more mitigation for stormwater runoff that happens to come from that area, and dissipate that before it gets to the lake.
What we've had for years over there is, because the retaining wall is so close, the house is built from our grandfather back in 1953. We've lost so much land from just erosion over time. Now, anytime, you know, the water, both the wind pushes it there, and anytime boats go by, the water just splashes over top of the retaining wall, and it's over time eroded pretty much that entire area. And that's why we kind of have that hardscape there to provide as a buffer to stop the erosion, as well as, you know, a area where we can enjoy the outside. You know, as you said, the cottage, it's only 953 square feet. We're adding some outdoor space where, you know, our families can grow together.
This area is essentially all sand too. I mean, we have pictures from, you know, past 2, 3, 4 decades, whatever you want. It's almost, you know, I mentioned in the last hearing, we've tried, you know, we've tried it on dirt and seed and planting grass, and it's very difficult there. It's facing the north, and it's just getting wind whipped all the time. So.
Thank you, John.
Yeah, to the consultant, you know, your numbers work in terms of the amount of mitigation, but we've also looked at location of that mitigation. You just look at the pictures you provided. There's a lot of vegetation to the right of the house as you're facing it from the back. The issue is, as Bill said, and I think Peter, the issue is looking at that stone paver walkway and its location. And what we would like there is vegetation. We think that's really important. So I'm kind of on board with Bill's suggestion that well, if not all of it, part of that's got to be pulled up. If maybe all of it and redone. And I understand the problem with overwash, et cetera, but from an environmental point of view, what you put in there is deleterious. It's a negative from an environmental point of view. And again, it's not the amount of mitigation, it is the location of the mitigation that concerns me.
Well, we did take the entire left side of the property up to the 50-foot buffer, with the exception of the patio and a small walking path around that wouldn't be, so we have circulation around the property. Is all
right, but as you look at that paved walkway from there to the breakwater, how much mitigation, how many plants do you have there?
We have 50 shrubs and 44 grasses and perennials.
From the walkway, from the paved walkway?
Oh, from the walkway to the retaining wall?
Yeah.
That was minimal. We can replace all of that with with native species.
Okay. Well, I'm
The concern.
concerned that, as Bill said, this is an after the fact filing, which really bothers me because if you come before us, we would have worked something out and probably wouldn't have been this. I don't see us approving this. Now you're saying, oh, well, it's already there. So it makes it emotionally more difficult, but not legally more difficult for me.
Let me go to Ed first before I come back to Pete.
Thank you. This may be a moot point if you go the route of changing the walkway, but I still have an issue with the mitigation area as proposed on the east side of the property. That was an area, and I'm not so sure, is the lighter line that you have there, is that supposed to be representing the previous mitigation area that was already there for the previous patio filing from what was the 1990s, I think it was.
Oh, this area here?
That whole area to the right, because that whole area to the right there was about 1,000, I believe it was about 1,000 square feet that were supposed to be used as mitigation for the previous patio that was permitted under a different filing. And that was also mitigated with 40 low bush blueberries. So the question is this limit that you have for the mitigation area just representing basically repeating the same mitigation area, which is what it appears to be. It appears to be imitating that same previous mitigation area, of which most of those plants have not survived. So I guess my question is, are you adding anything to that area, or it's not clear as to whether or not
we're reestablishing that. We're reestablishing that area because over time, that area, as you had mentioned, the many of the blueberries bushes had perished, and that area had started to become overgrown with invasives. So whatever mitigation was proposed in that area has gone by.
So are you including that area then as part of your mitigation for this project? Are you offsetting, is that part of the 2,327 square feet of proposed planting?
Yes. Because right now that's not an area that's in any sort of well-maintained area.
Right. So if that was 1,000, again, I don't remember the number right off the top of my head, but if that was 1,000 square feet of mitigation from the previous filing, then you're still shy.
Yeah, you're double counting.
Yeah.
Well, based on our discussions, Ed, previously, the commission didn't have any stipulations to maintain those mitigation areas in perpetuity. And where that area has gone to an unnatural area that is overgrown with invasives, the proposal is to remove those invasives and replant, which then constitutes a new mitigation area.
In all due respect, excuse me, I've got to jump in. I do not accept that reasoning whatsoever. That mitigation that was required earlier was legally required mitigation. It logically follows that it should be maintained in perpetuity. So to now say, oh, well, it died, and therefore I'm going to take a second credit for it, I respectfully disagree with that argument.
Well, according to your rules at the time, there was no stipulation for that area to be maintained.
Well, I would debate whether or not.
You're misinterpreting what I told you. I said at the time when they were doing that order of conditions, today we automatically put another condition on that saying any mitigation area must be maintained in perpetuity. There was no condition that said that specifically in the 1990s, but I also said that you would have to approach the commission as to whether or not they would be willing to accept that. I wasn't telling you that that's just okay. Now you can go ahead and forget about it and use that. You claim that area as new mitigation, and I've been saying that repeatedly.
And I would endorse Ed's arguments and say that in fact, logically, rationally, based on our longstanding practices, I don't think you can count that twice.
No,
I mean, you could
That's my
add, you
view.
could certainly add to that. I mean, that whole area is pretty much territory that is undeveloped and it's somewhat wild. So, I mean, there's not a lot of understory there. So you could just add more behind what was the original. You can fill in everything if that's what you're feeling. It would be the best way to do it. But you could certainly add behind that.
Yeah,
I'm not saying you can't use any of the area, but you have to add something to it for this portion of the project or for this project.
Yeah, that's what we were under the interpretation.
we would basically just add on to. So if there were supposed to be 40 there before, if we need to plant 80 to make 40 from the previous that wasn't maintained, and add 40 there, and probably add some additional native species in there for a mix of both, high and low bushes to maintain that area. There's not too much land left. The lot's very small. The house is small itself. The only thing that we kind of have is on the upper right portion of the plan where the grade starts going up. That's where the storage tanks are for the septic. And once we go into the gravity feed coming up, as soon as the town project is complete, we can also utilize that space for some more mitigation area as well.
Yeah, perhaps the history of the area between Lake Woquacket and what is now the pervious pavers up to the deck or the patio area. Patio, yeah, you can definitely keep that. But that area there, if it has been historically grass or sort of
so originally
herbaceous, let me finish, please.
Yep.
Or herbaceous vegetation, those roots of those kinds of plants, and I'm not a horticulturalist, but my wife is. Those kinds of plants don't hold on to the soil very well, and I don't think either that pavers on top are going to hold, or your pervious walkway there is a good firm anchor of the soil underneath it. Yes, it's holding the top, but undercutting it, which is, I guess, what waves do, and or even spilling over the top of your little wall there. I think that what would be best for preservation of your soils there, reducing erosion, would be some woody stuff that's got good, strong root systems. So again, a stepping stone would have vegetation all around it. And I think that vegetation that has more than 2 inches of height would absorb the little bit of energy of overwashing waves and would be a much better buffer. I'm with Bill on this. I'm really not, and with Commissioner Abadili, I'm not at all keen on keeping that walkway there. You got your patio, good. You can add some more over to the other side where you already had 40 blueberry bushes that you're supposed to have there. They just died, but you're not going to get double dipping. So there's still problems with what's being presented to us tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Pete. I think you hear enough from the commissioner itself here. Let me go to the public comment and see. I think there is one. Channel 18.
Yeah, go ahead if you want to.
Hi, yeah. My name is Guy Tlapa. I'm at 547 Shoot Flying Hill Road. Again, I've kind of spoke at the last meeting. I appreciate the kind of mitigation that's happened with the removal of any of the plants in the right of way. That's good, a good step in the right direction. I'm glad to see that the 11 arborvitaes that were proposed at the top of the driveway are no longer proposed. I still have concerns with, both my house and two others up there that, even the 7 arborvitaes that are planted alongside the fire pit are going to grow 60 feet tall, and we're losing half of our view of the lake. And I'm not sure if I understand all the heights of the other mitigation that's now proposed, kind of in that left side and north of the house. But my stance is, again, if any of those grow to decent height, we have lost our entire view of the lake. So I'm wondering, again, before I heard any other comments here, was hoping that we could focus on the right side, or I guess the east side of the lot for the mitigation. It just, again, I have no problem against Bill and I'm sorry, Robert and Tom. They've been great neighbors. I feel like, the abutters are potentially getting penalized, and this is not a small penalty for us to lose our view of the lake. We're also in a modest house right across the street. I can share, if I'm allowed to, I can grab the screen and show you guys the view from my house, both looking up and looking down. And, right now, those arborvitaes are taking half of our view of the lake right now. And if there's more mitigation that's happening up around that on the left-hand side of the page, we're dramatically impacting our view of the water.
Well, thank you for your comment. But one thing I just want to mention, under the Wetland Protection Act, the view is not protected.
I understand.
So this is something that you have to discuss with your neighbor and how you resolve that. So I just want to leave that at that.
I don't know. That's on that. I appreciate that, Commissioner. Robert or Tom, I've actually been trying to reach out to you. I thought I knew the landscaper who installed this for you, but apparently I don't. And then I just sent a message to Michael, you're the person that's on today. I would love to be able to talk to you guys about that. So I don't know if I can get your number and we can kind of work through that.
Yeah, I can reach out to you, guy.
Yeah.
Right.
So you guys should sort it out yourself for that matter. So back to Michael and the homeowner, because we still have an issues with the walkway there. The one question I have is Bill is mentioning that he measured as 4'10" versus 4'6". Is that correct?
Well, my tape measure said I measured at 3 places. I actually looked for the 4'6". I couldn't find a 4'6", but
so
yeah, I haven't personally measured it.
So the other things too is I think you should take a continuous seriously thinking about the stepping stone and how to do that walkway stuff, trying to reduce it if possible, and then putting some more mitigation area as we were talking about. Certainly you can double check with Ed and go over that again.
Yeah. King, I have a quick question. Would it be, completely remove the walkway and do a separate material, or if we just take the walkway and shortened it to 3 feet in width to reduce it to be more narrow, or do they want to eliminate the pervious pavers entirely for that walkway portion?
I'd be in favor of just removing the permeable pavers and putting in modest stepping stones. I don't know about you, Jeffrey, but
Yeah, I am as well.
Would that be including at the landing of the stair as well and leading to the dock, and then just continue from the dock to the patio as stepping stones?
That was all previously brick for, I don't know, for our lifetime, maybe before. That section was. A lot of these pavers were placed over where we previously had brick too. This was pre-existing walkway.
But may not be that wide, right?
No, yeah, absolutely. I absolutely understand. Yes, yep. No, we're absolutely willing to work with you guys. We want to, we want to make everything. We're doing what we can to try to accommodate what you guys want. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So I think if I'm reading the commission right, is we are leanings towards removing the walkway, putting in stepping stone and that in that area for your
And
access.
redoing that mitigation calculation as per Ed's comments.
Right.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Right.
Yep.
If that's the case, then is April the 14th good for the continuance? Do you have enough time?
The 14th, when would everything be required to be in by?
It would be by the 7th. You should have the plan to the commission by the 7th then.
Be really
Okay,
tight.
so a week.
Which is a week away.
Yeah.
I think we can handle that.
Because
Okay.
if not, the following one is the 21st, which give you another week to deal with that.
No, I'd like to go for the 14th or the 14th. So in that way, I'd like to be able to start planting some of this to let the early season so it has a full year to mature.
Okay. Could I have a motions to continue these applications to April the 14th?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Abadili,
Aye.
DeMello,
Aye.
Hearn, aye. Kashulik,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Sampu.
Aye.
A motion carries.
Thank you. Good luck.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Please
Have a good
work with the vice plan and if you have any questions, talk to Ed on that one.
Yeah, will do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have 4 easy certificates of compliance. The first one is Joshua Garvey, SE3-5704. The second one is Kevin and Cynthia Kitts, SE3-5459. The third is Jeff Ingram, SE3-6134. And the last one is Daniel Alprin and Julie Ace Solomon, SE3-5944. Could I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Abadili,
Aye.
DeMello,
Aye.
Hearn, aye. Kashulik,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
and Mr.
Aye.
Sampu. Here we go. That's unanimous.
The next hearing is the April the 14th. Could I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Abadili,
Aye.
DeMello,
Aye.
myself, aye. Kashulik,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
and Pete.
Aye.
And the meeting is adjourned at 8:32.